Japan has threatened the United States' stance as the most advanced nation in the world, and even China is worried. With an investment of $7 billion, Japan has built and even upgraded its very own lethal aircraft carrier, one with advanced capabilities that rivals the U.S.'s pride, the USS Gerald R.Ford. This new development has shocked nations across the world and has sparked increased interest in Japan's military capabilities. Is Japan's aircraft carrier more powerful than the USS Gerald R.Ford? What makes this new aircraft carrier so unique? Join us as we explore the mind-blowing features of Japan's $7 billion aircraft carrier that has shocked the United States and China. The United States and Russia have reasons to be genuinely concerned. Wondering why? Let's travel back to over a decade ago to the year 1922, when Japan launched the Hosho, the world's first aircraft carrier. This pioneering vessel was initially used to test carrier aircraft operations, including takeoffs, landings, and various tactics, undeniably proving its combat effectiveness. Following this success, Japan went on to build several more aircraft carriers: the Akagi, Kaga, Ryujo, Hiryu, Shokaku, Zukaku, Taiho, and Unryu. This nation's aircraft carriers were the most powerful. Unfortunately, the Unryu, the last of these carriers, was sunk in 1944 during World War II. Just 1 year later, Japan faced the devastating impact of 2 nuclear bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which swiftly led to the end of the deadliest conflict in human history. Since then, Japan has led a peaceful existence, totally refraining from developing offensive weapons like intercontinental ballistic missiles, nuclear weapons, and aircraft carriers, which possess long-range attack capabilities. Only defensive weapons to protect Japan's sovereignty were permitted. However, this stance is changing as Japan's sovereignty and that of its allies face new challenges. Interestingly, Japan already possessed 2 helicopter carriers as large as aircraft carriers, ostensibly for defensive purposes. These helicopter carriers are even larger than both of Italy's aircraft carriers, sparking debates about Japan's true intentions. Many speculated that Japan was covertly maintaining aircraft carrier capabilities without openly admitting it. This debate is now settled, as Japan is officially converting these helicopter carriers into aircraft carriers in response to escalating tensions with neighboring China. For the first time in over 7 decades, and after several years of being unable to own a ship that is deemed dangerous, Japan finally developed its own aircraft carrier. The JS Izumo is the lead ship in the Izumo class. This aircraft carrier was commissioned by the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force in March 2015. The development of the first ship of the Izumo class started in 2011 at a shipyard in Yokohama. This project was funded with 113.9 billion yen, and yes, the production cost more than some aircraft carriers. The carrier is officially called a multi-purpose operation destroyer. This aircraft carrier is one of the biggest Japanese naval ships since World War II, and it was eventually launched on August 6, 2013, after which it went through sea trials starting from September 29, 2014. The ship officially joined the fleet on March 25, 2015. This aircraft carrier was initially designed and built to carry helicopters, but later on in May 2018, the ruling Liberal Democratic Party said they wanted to change Izumo so that it can carry fighter jets with fixed wings. This change was confirmed on December 2018 when Japan announced new guidelines for defense. Once they finish making these changes, Izumo will be the first Japanese naval ship to carry aircraft with fixed wings since World War II. They plan to replace the older ships from the Shirane class that were supposed to retire in 2014 with these new ships. After the upgrade, the JS Izumo had the capability to hold up to 28 aircraft, and even better, 14 bigger ones. At first, they wanted to have 7 anti-submarine warfare helicopters and 2 search and rescue helicopters. For different missions, it can also carry 400 soldiers and 15 trucks or similar equipment. The landing area for helicopters on the deck has 5 spots, so they can land or take off at the same time. When involved in a standard mission, the Izumo class can house 7 SEH-60K anti-submarine warfare helicopters and 2 MCH-101 utility helicopters with the ability to operate up to 5 helicopters at the same time. However, the carrier can accommodate a total of 28 helicopters within its hangars. Designated as a multi-purpose vessel, the new carrier's primary mission, according to Japanese officials, was to enhance the national defense system, especially in anti-submarine warfare and command and control operations, to safeguard Japanese territories in the East China Sea. Additionally, such a vessel proves invaluable during large-scale natural disasters, like the 2011 earthquakes and tsunami, by facilitating rapid mobilization of personnel and supplies, which can significantly improve response times and survival rates. Once unveiled to the public, China quickly took interest in the carrier, recognizing its potential due to its resemblance to a conventional aircraft carrier. Although the JS Izumo is officially classified as a destroyer with defensive capabilities, China and some warfare experts began to speculate that this new Japanese vessel could be used to launch fighter jets or other aircraft capable of vertical takeoff in the future. China was obviously unsettled about this new innovation, and even suggested that the carrier was specifically designed to operate against them, dismissing the anti-submarine functions as a cover story by the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force. The name of the JS Izumo also raised some controversy amongst Chinese political and military circles. The original Izumo, an armored cruiser, was purchased with reparations from the First Sino-Japanese War, a detail that was far from overlooked. However, Japanese officials consistently refuted these speculations for years. They steadfastly maintained that they had no plans to use Izumo as an aircraft carrier, making reference to the lack of catapults for launching fighters and the absence of a ski jump ramp on the flight deck for fixed-wing aircraft launches as tangible proof. Despite the several speeches to deny the claims made by China, sure enough, in 2018, Japanese officials announced that the JSDF's Izumo-class helicopter carriers, Izumo and sister ship Kaga, would be converted to host F-35B short takeoff, vertical launch stealth jets. As such, the platform will be transformed into a weapon Tokyo hasn't wielded since 1945. The first ship of this Izumi class is JS Kaga. Both 27,000-ton vessels were commissioned in 2015 and 2017, respectively. They each can carry up to 28 helicopters, including transport and attack helicopters, and they have a large flight deck with 2 elevators that can accommodate simultaneous takeoffs and landings. Therefore, they have the core facilities to support fixed-wing aircraft. Whatever additional components are needed would be installed during their conversion into aircraft carriers, or alternatives could be opted for instead. For instance, both ships have neither a ski jump nor a catapult, which are typical features used in launching fixed-wing aircraft. Upgrading them to have these components would be far from economical. If the Izumo-class aircraft carriers would operate fixed-wing aircraft, they would be limited to short takeoff or vertical landing aircraft, or STOVL aircraft for short. One such aircraft is the American F-35B, which is widely regarded as the most advanced, most intelligent stealth jet ever to grace the skies. The F-35B requires a 183-meter runway. Without a ski jump, these Izumo-class vessels, with their 245-meter-long decks, can provide more track space than that, and can therefore launch the aircraft easily. Its approach seemed manageable enough for Japan's Ministry of Defense, so despite already having the conventional F-35A without STOVL capabilities. Japan announced on December 2018 that it would purchase about 40 F-35B to be shared between JS Izumo and Kaga after conversion. 3 years later, 2 United States Marine Corps F-35B fighters performed the first vertical landings and horizontal takeoffs from Izumo, marking the first time in more than 70 years that a fixed-wing aircraft would be operated from a Japanese carrier. Once completed, each Izumo-class aircraft carrier could carry up to 7 anti-submarine helicopters, 2 search and rescue helicopters, and various other aircraft, including F-35Bs. For defense, the Izumo class is equipped with 2 phalanx and 2 RAM close-in weapon systems. It also has sensors, processing systems, electronic warfare tools, and decoys to detect and counter threats. The ship is powered by a KOGAG system with 2 shafts and 4 gas turbines, producing up to 112,000 horsepower, allowing it to reach a top speed of 30 knots. This system powers the entire ship, which has a crew of 520 people. Each Izumo-class vessel costs just over $1 billion, with the price expected to rise after conversion is complete. JS Izumo's conversion began in 2020 with initial modifications, including strengthening the heat resistance of the deck and installing power supply equipment to enable the departure and arrival of the F-35B. A second renovation to change the bow shape to a quadrangle for the safe operation of the F-35B and the maintenance of the interior compartment is scheduled to be carried out starting from the end of 2024. JS Kaga began the first phase conversion in March 2022, and the second phase is slated to begin in March 2025. Once conversions are complete, the Izumo-class aircraft carriers will set off into the seas. Here are the most powerful rival and allied carriers awaiting them. With China as Japan's greatest rival, the new Japanese aircraft carriers would be up against the Type 003, Fujian, and the Gerald R.Ford class of the U.S. Let's have a closer look at these aircraft carriers, beginning with China's Fujian. The Type 003 class Fujian is the largest conventionally powered aircraft carrier in the world. It is the only aircraft carrier in the East to feature electromagnetic catapults and arresters to launch and slow down aircraft respectively. With a displacement of 80,000 tons, it is the largest aircraft carrier in the world outside the United States. Only launched a few months ago, the Fujian remains a mystery with not much information released about all it has to offer the Chinese Navy, but all signs point towards some impressive capabilities. This ship is also China's first aircraft carrier that helps aircraft take off with catapults. It has 3 of these catapults, 2 at the front and 1 at the back. Some people believe that it might also have weapons underneath the flight deck for defense, like missile pods and close-in weapon systems. In 2019, an analyst named Robert Farley thought that the aircraft carrier would be the biggest and most advanced aircraft carrier ever made outside of the United States, and his thoughts were not far-fetched. Originally, the Type 002 was supposed to use steam catapults, but in 2013, Rear Admiral Yin Zhuo mentioned that China's next carrier would have electromagnetic catapults instead. Also, media saw several prototypes in 2012, and aircrafts that could use these catapults were tested. Switching to electromagnetic catapults probably led to the carrier being bigger than previous ones that were developed in China. The carrier's construction started mid-2010, and while the exact date it started is not certain, the national interest said it was in March 2015. The Diplomat believes that the initial work began in February 2016, and in March 2017, the Shanghai Jiangnan Shipyard Group got the go-ahead to proceed, but tests on electromagnetic and steam catapults caused some delays. However, by November 2017, the Navy had a system to power electromagnetic catapults, so construction on the Type 003 could continue. In May 2020, big sections of the carrier were moved from where they were made to a staging area. Then in July 2020, they were put into a dry dock. By early September 2020s, most of the big sections that make up the bottom and middle of the ship were in the dock, but the very front of the ship was still missing. Pictures taken from above suggested that the ship would be about 300 meters long, almost as long as China's other carriers. It would also be about 40 meters wide. In the middle of 2020, some people in China thought the ship would be launched mid-2022, but in September 2020, a person from the Diplomat said it probably wouldn't be launched until at least mid-2022. In July 2021, pictures from space showed that the construction of the carrier was going well. They were adding important parts like the tall structure on top and the 3 catapult launch systems onto the hull. Then on November 10, Bloomberg said that according to a report from the Center for Strategic and International Studies, China was close to launching its 3rd aircraft carrier, probably within 3 to 6 months. Japan's aircraft carrier would also be up against one of the most advanced nations in the world, and its aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R.Ford. It is important to note that this ship is the most powerful aircraft carrier class in history. Each aircraft carrier of this class costs a hefty $13 billion. With 10 carriers planned for the class, that's a total cost of $130 billion, multiple times more than the combined cost of every other aircraft carrier mentioned in this video. The lead ship of the Ford class, the USS Gerald R.Ford, like its siblings, has a record-setting displacement of 100,000 tons, an actual supercarrier powered by 2 Bechtel A-1B nuclear reactors. the most cutting-edge engines created for use on water. The supercarrier can sail for 25 years without refueling, has an extreme speed of 30 knots, and powers the livelihood of over 4,500 people on board at a time. The supercarrier can carry up to 75 aircraft of different form, shape, or size, including unmanned aerial vehicles, both the F-35B and F-35C, and many others. This versatility is made possible by an electromagnetic launch and arrest system so advanced that they could support 4,100 takeoffs and 16,500 arrests before faults. Without aircraft, the USS Ford, Gerald R. Ford class carriers are equipped with several advanced features. These include advanced arresting gear for plane landings, automation to reduce crew size, updated RIM 168 Evolved Sea Sparrow missiles for defense, dual-band radar combining two radars for close and far detection, an electromagnetic aircraft launch system replacing traditional steam catapults, a new A-1B nuclear reactor design for increased power, stealth features for reduced radar detection, and the capability to carry up to 90 aircraft, including various jets and helicopters. The biggest noticeable change from older supercarriers is that the control tower is placed farther back on the ship. The Gerald R. Ford class carriers will be cheaper to run over their lifespan, partly because they need fewer crew members. These ships are designed to handle 160 flights every day for more than 30 days, with the ability to handle up to 270 flights a day when needed. However, Michael Gilmore, who oversees operational testing, thinks the predictions about these numbers are too optimistic. He believes that achieving the same number of flights as the Nimitz class, which is around 120 to 240 flights a day, would be more realistic. The new Bechtel A-1B reactor for the Gerald R. Ford class is smaller and easier to handle. It needs fewer people to operate, but it's much stronger than the Nimitz class A-4W reactor. Each Gerald R. Ford class carrier will have two of these reactors, giving them at least 25% more power than the Nimitz class carriers, which have two A-4W reactors producing 55 megawatts of power. The amount of power used for making electricity will be 3 times more than before. The Gerald R. Ford class ships have a different setup. They use steam to create power, which is then used by 4 big generators and the new electromagnetic catapults. These ships also use steam turbines to move forward. That's not all. The engineers in charge of this aircraft carrier made sure that they could add new technology to a Gerald R. Ford class aircraft carrier, even if they didn't know about it when they built it. The Navy also believes that these ships will be around for a long time, maybe until 2105. So they need to be able to use new technology as it comes up. Right now, only half of the ship's power is being used, leaving the other half for future technology. The electromagnetic aircraft launch system launches planes using a different method compared to the Nimitz class. Instead of steam, it uses a special motor to push the planes. This way, planes get launched more gently, which is easier on their bodies. EMALS is also lighter, cheaper, and needs less fixing. It can launch both heavy and light planes, unlike the steam system. Plus, it saves water, which means less energy is needed for making drinking water. In the new advanced arresting gear system, electromagnets are replacing hydraulics to slow down and stop landing planes. The old hydraulic system has worked well for over 50 years, but the AAG system has some improvements. The current system can't safely catch unmanned aerial vehicles because they're too light to activate the big hydraulic piston meant for heavier manned planes. With electromagnets, a turboelectric engine controls how much energy is absorbed, making the landing smoother and gentler on the planes. Even though the new system will look the same from the flight deck, it will be more flexible, safer, and reliable. Plus, it will need less fixing and fewer people to operate. Another new feature on the Gerald R. Ford class is a radar system that can both search and track targets using electronically scanned arrays. This radar, called dual-band radar, was designed by Raytheon for both the Zumwalt class destroyers and the Gerald R. Ford class aircraft carriers. By using a single radar with 6 sides instead of 6 to 10 separate ones, the control tower can be smaller. The U.S.'s aircraft carrier might presently be one of the most powerful. However, Japan is simply gearing up, and this country might soon develop an aircraft carrier that would make the U.S. and China's aircraft carrier an afterthought. Thanks for watching. While you are still here, click on the link on your screen to check out another of our videos. See you there.